Hi, and welcome to Impact Club. I'm your host, Sabah Fatima. Today, we dive into science with my dear friend, Dr. Nida Rehmani. She's a molecular biologist by training, a mentor, and editor by experience. She's affiliated with the Global STEM Alliance in the New York Academy of Sciences as a professional member and mentor. She has served as a program mentor for the Academy's 1000 Girls, 1000 Futures, and Junior Academy programs. She's a scientific editor and a lead researcher for a Canada based STEM organization for South Asian women. As a recipient of the prestigious Obama Singh Knowledge Initiative, she expanded her research at the Department of Radiology at the Ohio State University. Upon completion of the program, she earned, she earned an M.Ed uh, specialized in STEM education and research. She is a science communication enthusiast and STEM education advocate striving to represent and empower minorities, especially women. Through her volunteer work, she aims to inspire the next generation to pursue STEM and set a precedent for women to contribute towards society. She is also a dedicated mother to an active toddler and an infant. Nida, welcome to Impact Club. How are you?
Hey Sabah, Assalamu alaikum. I'm good.
Walaikum assalam. So tell me about your journey in academics. What inspired you to pursue it?
Yeah, sure. I come from India, north part of India, and I grew up, writing in my slam books that I want to become a doctor because that was the stereotype profession that was projected to me by the community, by the family members. So usually, girls who are good in studies, you should pursue biology and medicine. And I used to hear that guys should do engineering. So those were the stereotype I grew up with, and coincidentally, I was good in biology, so I thought of becoming a doctor. I did become a doctor, but not that one, which who treats patient. The journey towards higher education was not a planned one, but it came through, and I'm glad I did that, and it mattered to me a lot. It has shaped the journey into academics has shaped me into an individual whom I have become.
Mhm.
So my mother was educated at that time. I come from like a town in India, small town. I did not grow up seeing a lot of female in my community pursuing higher education per se, but my mother was educated. She was a master's in English at that time, so she was quite interested in higher education and academics, especially. So she motivated me when I did not crack the medical entrance in the first attempt. I did not want to go to the route of dropping years and in the pursuit of that long career. Instead, I joined. I took undergrad, and that was majored in biochemistry. So the subject turned out to be, although I thought that I have chose something different than what I have imagined or aspired to become, but biochemistry turned out to be a very interesting subject for me, and it aligned with what I grew up becoming like, because it was all about like underlying diseases and their mechanisms. So that was a good journey, and then I thought of doing masters as well. Then after that, I thought of I should do PhD. I really become motivated with the subject. Initially, I did not think that I would pursue PhD in that particular field,
Mhm.
but then with the grace of Almighty, I was able to do complete my PhD, and my mother motivated me to do that. And yeah, so but it was certainly a glass ceiling to shatter because I did not see many females aspiring for higher
Mhm.
education, going for PhD, especially in a STEM related field.
Mhm. That's amazing. And I think we need more women contributing towards science and contributing towards society. And I think you are one of them. So kudos to you. And I congratulate you on your work. So tell me about your research. What are the applications that you work on?
So I completed my PhD in 2017. My research, basically in layman's term, if I try to explain that, it's about how, so we all know that DNA is the building block of our organisms, right? and it can, if it is harmed or damaged, and in the scientific community as we call the mutations, so there are lots of implication after that if a
Mhm.
DNA is damaged. So my PhD was focused on how endogenous metabolites, meaning the internal compounds present in our body, can damage this DNA and then lead to different diseases, such as cancer or neurodegenerative diseases and
Mhm.
even aging. So yeah, I studied like effect of a family of compounds in my PhD that are called as catecholamines. uh, Dopamine is one of them. Most people know dopamine as the happy hormone. So yeah, those were the family of compound. They are neurotransmitters, and I studied the effect of these compounds on DNA, how they damage DNA, in what quantity they can damage the DNA, and what the background research says about these mutations that they cause in the DNA, and then what can happen possibly. And these have applications for designing compounds or drugs which can treat those diseases, which can delay these harm caused by the spontaneously induced cancer,
Mhm.
because that is the cancer which is present predominantly. Most of the
Mhm.
cancer are spontaneous in nature. So yeah, so I studied the effect of these internal compounds
Mhm.
that in small quantities are not that harmful. But yeah, so that's kind of a scientific jargon. But yeah, I try to explain it in terms of like layman, like what happens if you cut your DNA, not exactly
Mhm.
cut, but harm it in some way, and then what happens later, what
Mhm.
diseases can emerge out of this mechanism. So
Mhm.
it's like chemistry. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And from what I understood, and what I think is so important about the work that you're doing, is how you can look at the DNA, which is like, a well of information, and use that information to, um, predict diseases, to prevent diseases.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
something we all need. We need prevention. As they say, prevention is better than
Yeah.
cure. And DNA has
Yeah.
revolutionized the study. So that's amazing. And I also know
Yeah.
that you are, and I mentioned this before, you are a recipient of a prestigious, initiative called the Obama Singh Knowledge Initiative. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I think, the turning point in my journey, in my professional or career journey, I would say. So starting in like, it was in 2014. Yeah, that was the year. Yeah. I was midway into my PhD. I was in the second year of my PhD there in India at Aligarh Muslim University, where I pursued my undergrad, master's, and enrolled in a PhD program focused in molecular biology. That time, my eyes fell on a flyer as I walked the hallways in my department at the university, and it says in big letters, uh, a program that was a novel program, and it was it was recruiting first batch of students for that program. So the ideology and the focus of the program was to take PhD students in STEM and train them at Ohio State University in teaching pedagogy, so that they can come back and implement. Because as the saying goes, not all good researchers or even professors are
Mm-hmm.
good teachers. We have seen that, some are very good researchers, scientists, but when they come in the classroom, they don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to teach. So that's what the program wanted to do. They wanted to take PhD students and
Mm-hmm.
train them in teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very rigorous program. Apart from that, I did not even think of even if I will be willing to go there, because of, like I said, I come from a small town where I did not see females taking that journey,
Mm-hmm.
going outside, especially abroad, in pursuit of higher education.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I did not even have a passport at that time, because
Mm-hmm.
I studied all my undergrad and masters at one particular university that was close to
Mm-hmm.
my town. So I never thought, it never appeared to me. I thought it's very rigorous. I might not be selected. But then, yeah, then I was, I got selected. I went
Mm-hmm.
there. And interestingly, I got married and then traveled to
Mm-hmm.
US and then completed a master's there. So it was very interesting, and I felt like I broke a glass ceiling in my family, in my town, and set a precedent for women.
It must have been like a whirlwind journey, you know. And so, among how many applicants were you selected from?
I guess from what I know, it was like 50 students, 50 PhD students.
Mm-hmm.
And because the criteria was you have to be a PhD student, you
Mm-hmm.
must at least be 1 year ahead in your career. You must have TOEFL, certain score of TOEFL, and then
Mm-hmm.
you need to be interviewed, several rounds of interviews, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So yeah, out of 50, I guess there were only 2 girls and 2 boys selected. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a batch of 4 students.
So it was a rigorous program, and
Yeah.
you know, since I've asked that question, tell me about the proudest professional moment in your journey.
Yeah, so it was, I guess all of this stuff like leading when I went to US and I earned an master's. I was all, a Muslim girl, a minority traveling overseas, and then, earning a prestigious fellowship, coming back to India, implementing those strategies. And then we were facilitated by the vice chancellor, that is like the president of the university, if you talk like in terms of US. So they facilitated us with like certificates, and our degree was awarded. So that those, I think this getting selected into this program would be my proudest professional moment so far.
Thank you. And what makes you most excited about what you're working on right now?
So, like how we talked till now, people might presume that I work in a research-oriented field right now, but that's not the case. I don't work in a like a lab bench work, 9 to 5 job where like maybe a postdoc. That is most the stereotype career of you do after doing a PhD, but that's changing in
Mhm.
STEM. So yeah, like I said, after doing my PhD, I came to US with my husband, and then I had my first child here. And after that, with no, I realized, the change. I started thinking in different terms of what a career means, and the value of contribution to our
Mhm.
society. So yeah, those jobs like 9 to 5, working in a lab environment was not on the cards for me with a family, and there was no extended family support in US, and we didn't have like a network of people who could like be like a village, like we say it takes a village to raise a child. But if you want to contribute along with raising a child, it
Mhm.
certainly takes more than one village, and I had none. So I tried to like reimagine what career means to me and how I can contribute with my skills, with my higher education. So often people used to ask me, like my acquaintances who knew that I had a PhD
Mhm.
and a master's in education, a US degree, and a higher education degree from India, are you working? So those questions I used to think at night when my baby was sleeping. So then once I saw a flyer on Facebook, interestingly, I do a lot of social media stuff. So then an opportunity landed into my hands, and I applied for this mentorship program. Those were virtual at New York Academy of Sciences. And then that opportunity opened several doors for me to
Mhm.
pursue different kind of, transition my skills that I learned in research to different careers beyond academia.
Mhm.
So I work for multiple organizations. One is, as you said in the introduction, New York Academy of Sciences. I'm an ambassador there, a mentor there, and I also like have been interviewed for the magazine for NYS, and then
Mhm.
I work for an organization, like you said in the intro. It's Lotus STEM,
Mhm.
Canadian organization for South Asian women in STEM, like me. So it's like sorority group for contributing to STEM, and I also
Mhm.
um, work for other organizations such as STEM Advocacy Institute and MyPie And yeah, so these are the organization where I'm working right now. There is this 500 women scientists
Mm-hmm.
in Denver. So I'm working as a coordinator for that particular pod. So yeah, these are the organization
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with right now
Mm-hmm.
virtually.
That's impressive. And as you said that every I think you redefined what career means to you, and I think for me and for the listeners, it's important to understand that you embraced motherhood and at the same time you reprioritized your journey because you transitioned into being a mentor, and you love it. So I think whatever a woman or a man decides to do, the work is still important, even if the conventional norms don't agree. It is, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
I congratulate you on that. Tell me about the biggest challenges you had to face in your journey.
I would say challenges, like when I was coming to US, the challenges were like, traveling alone. And like I said, I did not see many people doing that, especially females. So to break those stereotypes, and go for your dreams, those were the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Um, another challenge is Another challenge that I encountered, or I often do encounter, would be my identity as a Muslim woman. So there are kind of like many check boxes when people see you as a brown person of color, um, in hijab, a woman, a mother. So you have to break those stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
People from traditional backgrounds would think, when they see you or see a girl like me, they would think of like, she might not be too educated, or she might not be that smart. So you have to overcome those.
Mm-hmm.
There's a word for that. It's called imposter syndrome. So you feel like you're not the smartest person in the room because of those stereotypes and bias. um, so I think these are ongoing challenges which never stop, and then you have to
Mm-hmm.
like overcome them. And
Mm-hmm.
like I work for different organizations; those are all international, Canadian,
Mm-hmm.
US. But sometimes you do feel like you are a minority, and you have to. And one of the things why I want to keep contributing is I want to set a precedent for um, women, Muslim women, especially those who have a family or who have kids, because I
Mm-hmm.
usually do not see representation of such female in careers in STEM. I when like we are on a panel, and I seldom see women who have kids, who are Muslim, who are hijab wearing, and then they also are on that
Mm-hmm.
forum, or are contributing or have a say in something of to social issues. So I want to set like be a representation or maybe a role model for those
Mm-hmm.
girls, who want to see, if if it's possible to be a minority, and then balance work and family, and break those stereotypes and bias in the society.
Mm-hmm. I think that gives me a lot of hope. and
Yeah. Hmm.
and and speaking of imposter syndrome, a lot of us go through that. I think it's so important to believe in yourself, and you have been
Yeah.
doing that and you have been succeeding. So you are an inspiration to all of us, and I wish you the very best in your career as a mentor. And I want I want to ask, what advice would you like to give to the aspiring scientists?
Um, I would say I'm like in technical terms, I would be a scientist, but I'm not pursuing that journey right now. People do postdocs and have more training. But yeah, like the golden rule of science is resiliency, persistency. Like there is no substitute for hard work, and you need to overcome like science, and especially research teaches you a lot about dealing with failures. So you become
Mhm.
a strong person. You run an experiment overnight or for a week, and then you don't have good results, and that tears you apart, and then sometime later you get good papers, good publications. So I guess dealing with failures and
Mhm.
is very important. Overcoming them, positivity and resiliency, overcoming those fears. And so academia is very, I would say, it deals with a lot of peer pressure, they say there's a saying, publish or perish in academia. So yeah, so you should learn not to perish. And there are, like I said, the work which I am doing nowadays with different organizations deals with the skills you learn in your PhD training, and then you learn, take those transition. So it's okay to take a different route if it doesn't
Yes.
fit your way.
Hmm.
So just step out of that, postdoc and then professor route. If that's not okay for you, if you do not fit in that space, then maybe step out. And there's a book in academia that's called, uh, I guess, Taking a Salmon's Leap. So the salmon lives like way beyond inside the sea or ocean, and then it comes far away to travel and then take it
Hmm.
food.
Hmm.
So that leap is very difficult for academicians, I would say. And then but researchers should learn. And nowadays, like the careers range after PhD are changing. You can become a writer, a scientific writer. You can become
Hmm.
a speaker. You can become a science communicator. You can be a teacher, an advisor. So there are a host of skills which you learn in science, in research, and then you can have a different kind of skill set which you can apply to different job outside academia. So I guess I would give that advice for those who are scientists, who don't want to be scientists, or who still want to be scientists. So like they should learn to break the stereotypes and
Hmm.
think beyond what people think of who a scientist is.
Hmm. So it's like, you know, breaking away from the norm and believing in yourself, do not limiting yourself.
Yeah, not
And
limiting the career options.
and it's never too late to take the leap.
Yeah.
And and with that, I thank you so much for doing this with me, Nida, and I hope to have you here again. It's been
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing the journeys of females and bringing out to the society and inspiring them. Thank you for your time, Sabah. Take care. Stay safe.
thank you, Nida, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe to Impact Club everywhere, and I shall see you next time.